Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're exploring the world of Dan Martell,
Dan Martell.
multi-millionaire entrepreneur,
Yeah.
and we're going to be going through his book, Buy Back Your Time,
Awesome book. Yeah.
as well as some other related sources.
Yep.
And today we're on a quest to reclaim our most valuable asset,
Ooh,
time,
time is it.
and figure out how we can all create a life we truly love
Yeah.
by working smarter, not just harder.
Love it.
What I think is really fascinating about Dan's approach is that he doesn't just focus on productivity hacks.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
he digs into the psychology of entrepreneurship.
I love that. Yeah.
He even talks about something called chaos addiction.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, and how our early experiences, especially as entrepreneurs, can shape how we approach work and life.
Well, yeah, because like when you think about it, so many entrepreneurs are drawn to that like unpredictable, fast-paced world.
Right.
You know, like that's kind of the world we live in, and that's what draws us to it. But then that can lead to burnout,
Right.
if we're not careful.
Yeah, chaos addiction.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty intense.
It can be. It's like it's almost this like drug, you know, that you get hooked on that and you can't, you know.
Yeah. It's like we thrive in it in some ways, but also it can be.
It's that double-edged sword, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So tell me about Dan's background.
Yeah.
Like what led him to develop this philosophy?
Well, you know, his early life wasn't, you know, a conventional success story, let's say. I mean, he had some run-ins with the law.
Yeah.
Spent time in juvenile detention, even solitary confinement.
Wow.
I mean, you talk about chaotic upbringing.
Wow, that's quite a journey.
It is.
So I'm wondering how those experiences sort of shaped his views on entrepreneurship later on.
Absolutely. So he actually credits a conversation with a prison guard named Brian
Okay.
as a real turning point for him.
It's interesting.
You know, Brian saw his potential even in that environment
Right.
and asked him a very simple but life-altering question.
Okay.
Why are you here?
Wow.
You know,
Talk about a wake-up call.
talk about a wake-up call, right?
Yeah, I can see how that would really stick with you.
Big time. Big time.
Yeah.
And it made him kind of reevaluate his path
Yeah.
and led him to discover a passion for programming
Interesting.
while he was at a youth facility.
Okay, programming.
Yeah.
How did that fit into this picture?
Well, so for Dan,
Yeah.
the predictability of code
Right.
was so different than the chaos
Uh-huh.
that he had, you know, growing up.
Right.
It was like very appealing. This
Yeah.
idea that like things made sense, order and control.
It's almost like the opposite end of the spectrum, right?
Totally, totally black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he taught himself Java
Okay.
and had, you know, that hello world moment.
Right. I feel like that's almost a rite of passage for every programmer.
Oh,
The what first hello world.
You got to do it. You got to do it.
Yeah, you got to do it.
It's in the manual.
Yeah. So that moment was more than just a programming milestone for him.
Huge. It was like
Yeah.
the spark
Yeah.
that ignited his entrepreneurial spirit.
Mm-hmm.
He started to see like parallels
It's
between, you know, that uncertainty he had in his youth
Yeah.
and the challenges of building a business.
That's a really interesting connection.
Yeah.
It sounds like those early experiences really shaped his resilience
For sure.
and ability to adapt, you know,
I don't think
which is kind of essential for any entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Totally.
So he jumps into the world of entrepreneurship,
He does.
drawing on these early experiences.
Yep.
Did he find success right away?
Not right away.
Oh,
No.
yeah.
He was really driven by this get shit done mentality.
Right.
And,
I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs.
oh, we've all been there.
Yeah.
I know I was there.
Yeah, I've been there.
For sure.
So that led to burnout and the failure of his first two companies.
Sadly. Yeah.
Ouch. So working hard wasn't the magic formula.
You would think. Right.
You would think so.
You would think so.
I would think so.
So what was missing?
He realized
Uh
pure hustle wasn't enough.
huh.
And it was actually counterproductive in the long run.
Yeah.
It was like
That's a hard lesson to learn, though.
a hard lesson to learn, but
Yeah.
important one.
Yeah.
And that's what led him to develop this buyback principle,
Okay.
which is, you know, core concept of the book and really his whole approach.
All right. Let's break down this buyback principle.
Let's do it.
What's the gist?
So basically, it's about recognizing that time is your most valuable asset.
Okay.
And you should be looking for ways to constantly reclaim it.
Uh-huh.
He says that entrepreneurs need to excel at a few high-value tasks
Okay.
and outsource everything else.
So it's not just about working less.
Right.
It's about working smarter and focusing on
Exactly.
the things that matter.
The things that matter. Yeah. Yeah. How do you figure out what to outsource, though?
Yeah. Well, that's where he gets into what he calls the time assassins.
Okay.
There's patterns of behavior that sabotage our success and steal our time.
Time assassins.
I love it.
I love it.
Such a good analogy.
It is, and I feel like I've met
Oh, yeah.
a few time assassins in my life.
I think we all have.
I think we all have.
I know. I've definitely gotten to know a few of them.
I'm like a recovering speed demon,
Oh, yeah.
always rushing into things,
Yeah.
without thinking things through.
Got it.
So tell me about these time assassins.
So, yeah, basically each time assassin represents a different way we sabotage our productivity.
Okay.
So, like, you have the staller
Yeah.
who, hesitates on big decisions,
Okay.
creates unnecessary, drama and delay.
Okay.
The speed demon, like you were talking about,
Yes, I can relate to that one.
rushes into things leading to mistakes.
Yes, been there.
Yeah. And then you have this supervisor
Mm-hmm.
who micromanages everything,
Right.
stifling, their team's growth and
Yeah.
creativity.
Right.
Then you got the saver
Yeah.
who's always focused on cutting costs,
Okay.
but ultimately misses out on, opportunities
Right.
for greater return on investment.
They're penny wise and pound foolish.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
You got it.
Okay, and then what was the last one?
Oh, the self-medicator.
Self-medicator, yeah.
Uses work
Yeah.
or, substances
Right.
to numb the stress
Right.
and ultimately hinders their well-being
Right.
and productivity.
Yeah, those were all good ones.
Yeah, I think it's about identifying
Yeah.
which one is your,
Yeah, your nemesis.
arch nemesis.
Yeah. Yeah.
The one that's holding you back.
Yeah, so the first step in buying back our time
Yep.
is recognizing these self-sabotaging patterns.
I think so, yeah.
But how do we move beyond just identifying the problem?
Well, that's where his DRAP matrix comes in.
Okay.
It's a really cool tool.
Okay.
Helps you visualize how you're spending your time
Uh-huh.
and identify areas where you can improve.
Okay. Tell me more about this DRP matrix.
Yeah, so DRP stands for despair, replacement, investment, and production.
Interesting.
So it's a way of categorizing your tasks
God.
based on the value they generate and how much energy they drain from you.
So despair tasks are the ones we dread doing.
The ones that just suck the life out of us.
Yes. The energy vampires.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what was the second one?
Oh, replacement. So those are the ones we're good at,
Okay.
maybe even enjoy.
Okay.
But they don't actually move the needle in our business
Right.
like someone else could be doing them.
Yeah, so we want to minimize those.
Minimize those for sure.
Despair and replacement tasks.
You got it.
Okay, so what about investment and production?
Okay, so investment tasks
Yeah.
are the ones that require upfront effort,
Okay,
but they pay off in the long run.
got it.
So like,
Yeah.
learning a new skill,
Yeah.
building relationships,
Okay.
developing systems for your business, things like that.
Long-term thinking.
Long-term thinking.
Right.
Exactly.
And production tasks are the money makers, right?
Money makers.
The
Yeah.
activities that are actually moving your business forward,
Exactly.
generating revenue.
You got it.
So Dan's goal is to help us shift our
Right.
time and energy towards those activities, investment and production.
Totally.
He even uses Oprah Winfrey as an example,
Oh, yeah.
right?
He does. He does.
That's a pretty high bar.
It is a high bar.
So what does he say about Oprah?
Well, he points out that even Oprah
Yeah.
only spends a small portion of her day
Okay.
on like traditional business tasks.
Right.
She recognizes
Right.
her real value
Yeah.
is personal growth
Yeah.
and connecting with her audience, inspiring others.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that success doesn't have to mean being chained to your desk.
Right. It's about figuring out where your unique value lies
Yeah,
and focusing your energy there.
100%. I love that.
Okay, but how do we put all of this into practice?
Yeah.
How do we actually go from feeling overwhelmed and scattered
Right.
to having this clear plan to reclaim our time and focus on the things that matter?
Well, that's where his practical tools and strategies come in.
Okay.
And he's got lots of them, which is great.
So we've identified our time assassins.
Yeah.
We're starting to think about how we can shift our time towards those investment
You got it.
and production activities.
Awesome.
Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
So I'm ready to dive into those tools
Yeah.
and strategies,
Let's do it.
because I think we could all use a little bit more
Sure.
structure and focus in our lives, especially when it comes to work.
especially when it comes to work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think one of the first things that he talks about is this idea of the replacement ladder.
Replacement ladder. Okay.
So it's basically a structured approach
Okay.
to delegating tasks
Ah.
and building your team.
Okay.
So it's all about freeing yourself up to focus on your zone of genius.
Okay. Tell me more about how this replacement ladder works.
Yeah, so it's pretty simple, actually.
Okay.
There's 5 rungs on the ladder,
Okay.
and each rung represents like a different level
Okay.
of responsibility that you can like hand off.
So it's like a step-by-step guide to like delegating more and more as your business grows.
100%.
Got it. So what's the first rung on the ladder?
So the first rung
Yeah.
is to hire an admin,
Okay.
an administrative assistant.
To manage like your inbox and calendar.
Calendar, that kind of stuff. Scheduling, travel, all that.
Yeah. I can see how that would be helpful.
He's a big, big fan of that.
Yeah. Those tasks can be such a time suck.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah. And they could easily be done by someone else.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
And they can probably do it better than us a lot of times.
Probably. Yeah.
Especially if you're not like
Yeah.
an organized person.
Not detail oriented.
Totally.
So what are the other rungs on the ladder?
So after you've hired an admin,
Yeah.
then you move on to delegating like delivery tasks.
Okay.
Then marketing tasks.
Perfect.
Then sales tasks.
Uh-huh.
And then finally like leadership tasks.
So as your business grows, you're kind of
yeah.
climbing this ladder.
And climbing the ladder.
And delegating more.
More and more.
And more.
And ideally, your buyback rate.
Okay, hold on. You just said buyback rate.
I did.
What is that?
Yeah, so your buyback rate is essentially the hourly rate
Okay.
at which you can afford to outsource tasks.
Got it.
So it helps you determine, like,
Right.
does it make financial sense
Okay.
to delegate this or not?
So how do you actually calculate your buyback rate?
Yeah, so there's a specific formula,
Okay.
but it's basically about figuring out
Yeah.
how much revenue you're generating per hour.
Okay.
So once you know that number,
Uh-huh.
then you can compare that to the
Yeah.
hourly rate
Right.
of somebody who could do that task for you.
Right. So if you're making more than it would cost to pay someone else,
Exactly.
then it makes sense to outsource.
It makes sense to outsource 100%.
That's really helpful.
Yeah, I love that about his work.
Yeah.
It's like very
Yeah.
practical, you know?
Yeah, it takes the guesswork out of it.
Totally, totally.
And as your business grows, your buyback rate increases.
Hey, this.
You could outsource even more.
And that's the beauty of it, right?
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like you're constantly like raising the bar
Yeah.
for like reclaiming your time.
And that's the key, like, to building a scalable business.
Yeah.
That's sustainable long term.
So we're climbing this replacement ladder.
Yep.
We're delegating more and more.
Yes.
As our buyback rate increases.
Love it.
What other tools
Yeah.
does he recommend for like systematizing
Yeah.
our business?
I think one of the most powerful tools
Okay.
that he talks about are these playbooks.
Playbooks.
So these are like detailed guides
Okay.
that document, you know, the process
Right.
for repeatable tasks in your business.
So instead of having to explain it over and over again
Totally.
to new employees,
Every single time. Yeah.
you just have this document.
You got a system, a document.
They can follow.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It's about capturing that knowledge that you've built
Yeah.
and the experience you've gained
Right, right.
and turning it into a system
Yeah.
that anybody can follow.
So how do you go about creating these playbooks?
Yeah. So he's got a really cool method called the camcorder method.
Camcorder method.
I know, it's kind of funny.
Whew. I'm picturing myself holding a camcorder while I'm like answering emails.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not quite that literal.
Okay.
But the idea is that you basically record yourself
Okay.
performing the task.
Got it.
Whether it's, you know, creating a social media post,
Right.
processing an order, responding to a customer inquiry,
So you're capturing the whole
process step by step.
step by step. Yeah.
And then you have somebody else,
Okay.
you know, maybe a VA,
Virtual assistant.
turn that recording into a written guide
Right.
with, you know, instructions,
Yeah.
screenshots.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's so simple, but it makes so much sense.
I know, it works. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like deceptively simple
Yeah. It saves you so much time.
and brain damage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Trying to explain that same thing over and over again.
All the way.
What are some other elements that are important to include in a playbook?
Yeah, so he talks about like including a cadence section,
Okay.
which is basically outlining, you know,
Right.
how often should this task be performed?
So if it needs to be done daily,
Daily, weekly, monthly, yeah.
you specify that.
You specify it, yeah,
Got it.
just to make sure it's happening consistently.
Right. So there's no ambiguity.
Totally.
Okay.
And he's a big fan of checklists.
Oh, I love checklists.
Checklists are awesome.
Yeah. They
Uh,
just make everything so much easier.
Totally. They just make
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
nothing falls through the cracks.
Yes, okay, so we've got these playbooks in place.
Okay.
We're delegating effectively.
Yeah.
We're starting to reclaim our time.
Awesome.
But as we're handing off all this responsibility,
Yeah.
how do we make sure things are being done
Right.
to our standards?
Yeah.
How do we not lose control?
Well, that's where the definition of done comes in.
Okay.
Or DOD.
DOD, okay.
Yeah, so it's all about setting
Yeah.
clear expectations for what a completed task
Right.
looks like.
So it's like a quality control checklist.
Exactly. So everybody knows,
Yeah.
okay, this is what a finished product looks like.
Got it. So what are some key elements?
Yeah.
A good definition of done.
So he recommends including 3 key elements:
Yeah.
facts, feelings, and functionality.
Okay. Break that down for me.
Yeah. So facts are like the objective criteria
Yeah.
that need to be met.
Uh-huh.
So, for example, a blog post needs to be a certain length,
Okay.
include certain keywords,
Right.
be
Correct.
formatted a specific way, things like that.
And feelings address the emotional
Yeah.
response that the task
Exactly.
should elicit.
Yeah, so like
Oh,
a well-written blog post should not only be factually accurate,
right.
but also, engaging, inspiring,
Right.
thought-provoking, whatever the tone
Yeah, depending on what you're going for.
that you're going for. Exactly.
Okay. And then functionality refers to like
Yeah, the outcome.
desired outcome.
So like a sales call
Yeah.
should not only be friendly and informative,
Yeah.
but ultimately result in
Closing deal.
closing a deal. Yeah.
Okay.
So you got to make sure that's in there.
That makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
So, by having this clear definition of done,
You got it.
you can really ensure that your team is
Yeah.
working towards the same goal
Same page, same goal. Yes.
and delivering consistent results.
Consistent, high-quality results.
Yeah, this is all starting to make so much sense.
I'm glad. I'm glad.
Yeah, and I can see how implementing these tools would really make a difference.
Big time
Yeah.
in my work life.
Yeah, and I like how these are all like kind of universal principles.
Yeah, anybody can use them.
Yeah.
Any business.
So we're delegating, creating playbooks.
Yeah.
Setting clear definitions of done.
You got it.
But what happens
Yeah.
when things inevitably don't go according to plan?
Right.
How do we deal with those mistakes and challenges?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And he actually has some really great advice
Okay.
on leadership
Okay.
and communication,
Perfect.
which we can dive into next.
Yeah. I'm excited to hear about that.
I'm excited to share it.
Okay. So we're delegating, we're creating these playbooks, we're setting these clear definitions of done.
Yeah.
But what about that human element?
Right.
How do we lead effectively?
Yeah. Well, this is where his idea of transformational leadership comes in.
Okay.
So it's all about empowering your team
Okay.
to find their own solutions.
So it's not just about like top-down management.
Yeah, more like setting the vision,
Right.
giving them the outcome,
Okay.
and trusting them to figure it out.
But isn't that kind of risky?
Well, I think it can be.
Yeah. How do you ensure like quality and accountability?
Right, and that's why he's a big fan of having these clearing conversations.
Clearing conversations.
I know, it's kind of a weird name.
What are those?
Basically, they're these structured conversations
Yeah.
designed to provide direct and honest feedback.
Oh, so it's about like addressing issues.
Head on. Yeah,
Right away.
so you don't let them fester.
I feel like that can be really uncomfortable for some people,
Oh, it can be, for sure.
especially if you're not used to like,
Giving and receiving feedback.
yeah.
Yeah, and Dan, he actually shares this funny story
Oh,
about how he learned this the hard way.
okay.
He once accidentally criticized an employee
Oh, no.
on a conference call,
Oh, my gosh.
not realizing the employee was actually on the call.
Oh, that's so awkward.
It was so awkward. But yeah, it taught him a really valuable lesson. Yeah. About being clear and direct.
So these clearing conversations,
Yeah.
it's about being really intentional
Yeah.
with your communication.
Intentional and honest.
So you create this culture of like
Okay.
open communication.
Open and honest communication. Yeah.
So you're not just like you said, order takers.
Yeah, you want people to feel
Yeah.
empowered to like speak up.
Right, be problem solvers.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're empowering our team.
Yeah.
We're giving them these clear outcomes.
Yeah.
We're having these open conversations.
Love it.
What's the next step?
Well, I think true leadership is about inspiring your team
Okay.
to achieve those like extraordinary things.
Yeah.
And that's where his idea of 10x vision comes in.
Okay, we touched on this earlier.
We did.
Remind me, what is a 10x vision?
Yeah. So it's basically setting a goal
Okay.
that is 10 times bigger than what you think is achievable.
10 times bigger. So it's about like
Think big,
thinking really big.
massive. He says that when you set these like audacious goals,
Hmm.
that's actually what fuels innovation.
So it's about pushing beyond
beyond our comfort zones for
what
sure.
we think is possible.
And what's interesting is he says that
Yeah.
it can actually make achieving your goals easier
How?
because it forces you to completely rethink your approach,
Okay.
come up with new solutions.
Got it. So how do we wrap our minds around a goal
Yeah.
that is 10 times bigger than anything we've ever done before?
Well, that's where his preloaded year comes in.
Okay, the preloaded year.
Yeah, have you heard of this?
I think we've talked about this briefly,
Yeah.
so tell me more about it.
Yeah, so it's basically this strategic planning process
Yeah.
that helps you map out your year,
Okay.
out your 10X vision.
So it's not just about like setting that big goal.
Yeah.
It's about actually having the plan.
The plan to achieve it, yeah.
Okay.
So the preloaded year is about identifying
Yeah.
those non-negotiable activities.
Okay.
The big rocks,
The big rocks
okay?
that are going to drive the most progress.
Give me an example of a big rock.
Sure. So let's say your 10X vision is to build a multi-million-dollar business in the next 5 years.
Okay.
Some of your big rocks might be launching a new product line, securing a major partnership,
Got it.
hosting a high-profile conference.
So you're scheduling those first,
Schedule them first.
and then everything else kind of,
Yeah, you fit everything else around those.
okay.
Because if you don't,
Yeah,
those big rocks are going to get pushed aside.
I can definitely relate to that.
I think we all can, yeah.
This is all starting to click for me.
I'm glad.
It's like having that roadmap to your
It is. It is.
wildest dreams.
And it all comes back to,
Wow.
that principle of buying back your time.
Yeah.
By delegating,
Yeah,
systematizing,
Yeah.
focusing on your 10X vision.
yeah.
You create space for the things that matter.
I love how Dan kind of weaves together these practical strategies
Yeah.
with this mindset of abundance. I love that about his work too.
It's not just about working less.
No?
It's about living more intentionally.
Exactly.
This has been a great deep dive.
It has.
We've explored Dan Martell's journey
Yeah.
from his unconventional beginnings
To his philosophies.
to this buyback principle.
I love it.
What's the one thing you think our listeners should walk away with today?
I think the key message here is that time is your most valuable asset,
Yeah.
and you have the power to reclaim it.
Yeah.
You have the power to design a life that you love.
Dan's story is a great example of how you're not bound by your circumstances.
Right.
You can choose to break free from those self-sabotaging patterns.
You got it.
Build a business that serves your passions.
Yeah.
Create a life that you truly love.
As we wrap up here,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with this question. What seemingly impossible goal are you ready to make inevitable?
Think about that, write it down, and start building that extraordinary life one reclaimed hour at a time.